It's the first week of January, and if history repeats itself, a lot of you watching probably made a New Year's resolution to start a business this year. But unfortunately, many of you are not going to follow through with your online business goals, and I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm just speaking based on personal experience. But this year, I want to put a stop to all silly New Year's resolutions. So in this video, I'm going to show you my personal strategies on how to rewire your brain to make a difficult change in your life and actually follow through with it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. So not too long ago, my wife and I were victims of a dreaded disease known as complacency. Now, if you've never experienced this illness before, it is a condition where your days blend together. You never accomplish anything noteworthy, and you feel like you're stuck on an endless treadmill. Here was our typical day. We got up, we went to work, we came home, we ate dinner, we watched TV, we went to bed, we got up again the next day, rinse and repeat for eternity. We had no purpose. We weren't making that much money, and my wife hated her job. Now, on some days, I wondered whether I could tolerate living this way for 40 more years before retiring. So I consulted my dad for advice. So this is what I asked him. Dad, is spending all day at work just a part of adulthood because it sucks? And he replied, well, why does it suck? And what have you tried to switch things up? And I replied, well, nothing really. And this is what he told me. Well, you can't expect life to be different if you don't change your behavior. Well, thanks, Dad. Shortly after this conversation, my wife and I decided to start a business together, and it went nowhere. Even though we were super excited to get started, the zeal quickly started to fade, and within a month, we went back to where we started, mental drudgery. Now, here's the thing. We are all capable of accomplishing great things in life, but we often don't follow through. Sometimes we psych ourselves out. Sometimes our motivations start to fade, and sometimes we just can't get started. Now, 9 times out of 10, we don't change not because we don't have the ability to change. We fail because we get in our own way. Now, even though my wife and I eventually went on to create $2 million businesses together, it required us to rewire our brain to make the necessary changes. So here are my strategies for getting off your butt and taking action based on science and personal experience. All right, so tip number 1. Find an excuse to get a fresh start. Now, right now, it just happens to be New Year's, and New Year's is well known for being that time where you magically cast away your bad habits and promise to make a change. Now, we all know that most New Year's resolutions are destined to fail, but that doesn't mean that you can't use this time to give yourself a much-needed boost of motivation. And in fact, you should take a page out of Hallmark's book and leverage any remotely special event as an excuse to take action. It's my birthday. I'm going to lose weight. I'm stuck at home due to the pandemic. Time to start a YouTube channel. Now, speaking of YouTube, I dragged my feet for over 5 years because I couldn't get myself to start a channel, but I used the pandemic as an excuse to launch, and today I have almost 70K subscribers. Thank you for that, by the way. Sometimes you just need a spark. It's also important to meet new people to get a fresh perspective on life. Because when you hang out with the same friends for years, you tend to revert back to old behaviors that are just hard to shake off. So for example, here's what some of my friends were saying. Hey, Steve's just going through another one of his start your business phases again and never lasts. Steve, you don't even like writing. What makes you think you can create a blog? Steve, you hate putting yourself out there. YouTube is never going to work for you. Now, when you're stuck in a rut, it's surprising how a few innocuous comments can negatively affect your motivation. So start with a clean slate with some new friends. Go to a conference like the Seller Summit that I throw every year in May. Interacting with people with whom you have zero history with is liberating. Tip number 2. Remove all mental hurdles. Now, the problem with motivation is that it just doesn't last. My chemistry teacher once told me that matter always gravitates towards higher entropy and lower energy, and it's true with people too. Now, earlier, I mentioned that I put off starting a YouTube channel for nearly 5 years, and it wasn't for a lack of desire, I just couldn't keep it up. Every time I created a video, it would take me 2 hours to film and another 6 hours to edit. And because each video required 8 hours of my time, and I wasn't making any money from my channel, I started to dread the process, which eventually caused me to quit. Willpower can only take you so far, and sometimes the best way to persevere is to just sit down and analyze why you keep failing. You have to figure out what is truly stopping you from taking action. Now, one reason I drag my feet with YouTube is because it took forever to set up my lights and my camera every time I needed to create a video. So to solve this problem, I put together a mini video studio in my office where I could just push a button and start filming right away. Now, the other reason I could not maintain my YouTube channel is because I hated editing my videos. While I love filming, Editing literally sucked the life out of my soul. So as a result, the solution to my YouTube problem was to find a capable video editor. Now, ever since I found MJ, my current editor, big shout out to you, MJ, I've been able to create one video per week for the last 2 years. Now, once you get to the root of the problem, the rest just works itself out and you can establish a sustainable routine. My next tip is to always choose the more enjoyable path. Now, according to Ayelet Fishback, the author of the best-selling book How to Change, it's much easier to choose an enjoyable path than a highly effective path when it comes to sustainable change. So here's just an example. As I get older, I find it harder and harder to stay in shape and lose weight. And over the years, I've discovered that the most efficient way for me to lose weight is to just go running. And by running for just 30 minutes per day, just twice a week, I can shed 10 pounds within 6 months easy, as long as I maintain a reasonable diet. But the problem is that I hate running with a passion. So instead of running twice per week for 30 minutes, I spend 2 hours playing Ultimate and tennis instead. And even though Ultimate and tennis requires double the amount of time as running to lose the same amount of weight, I actually enjoy playing both sports. And as a result, staying in shape is much less of a chore. Now, according to Fishback's study, people tend to care more about instant gratification compared to long-term rewards. So as a result, you are much less likely to maintain an unpleasant activity for a long period of time unless you can see immediate results. People who pursue their goals in a fun way always stick with them longer. Next tip, bundle difficult tasks with an enjoyable activity. Now, finding pleasure with difficult tasks is great, but sometimes it's impossible to enjoy what you're doing. For example, I hate doing the accounting for my businesses. I detest writing product descriptions for the products that we sell. I dislike lifting weights to build strength. Now, making drastic changes to your life is rarely fun, and more often than not, it actually sucks. But sometimes you can trick yourself into making hard tasks more tolerable by associating them with an activity that you enjoy. For example, when I was young, my mom always took me to get ice cream at Swenson's after a piano lesson. And even though I never really enjoyed piano, I always look forward to getting a caramel turtle-nut fudge cone with chocolate sprinkles after the lesson. Now, whenever I have to write product descriptions for Bumblebee Linens, I snack on some of my favorite foods. Whenever I lift weights, I listen to my favorite music. Now, if you can bundle an unpleasant task with something you love, the two activities often average out to something much more tolerable. Next tip, join a mastermind group. Now, when my wife and I first started our business, we were lonely. We didn't have anyone to bounce ideas off of, and we had no one to hold us accountable for our progress. Joining a mastermind group solved most of our problems. Now, a mastermind group is a cohort of people with similar goals who meet on a regular basis to share ideas. And in our case, my wife and I formed a mastermind group to discuss e-commerce strategies, and we met with our group once per month. Mastermind groups are great for the following reasons. Your group will provide you with advice and insights that you would never have thought of. You'll get a confidence boost from helping other people with problems that you've already solved, and you'll gain an accountability partner to make sure you make forward progress. For example, my mastermind group once helped me grow my business 42% in 7 weeks. There's also a hidden benefit of having a mastermind group that is rarely discussed. According to S. Chris Winkler, a professor at the Kellogg School of Management, giving advice and teaching others improves your own outcomes in life. I actually discovered that whenever I give advice to the group, I was much more likely to follow through with my own words to avoid being hypocritical. All right, the next tip. Create a flexible routine. Now, the best way to build a habit and make forward progress with your goals is to just make it part of your schedule. I don't do anything whenever I feel like it. Instead, every task for my business is penciled in on my calendar at the beginning of the week. So for example, Mondays, I film a YouTube video and prepare a podcast. Tuesday, I create a lesson plan for my course. Wednesday, I give office hours to my Profitable Online Store course members. Thursday, I give office hours to my Profitable Audience course members. Friday, I work on my e-commerce store marketing and plan the following week. Saturday, I pretty much relax. Sunday, I write a blog post while my kids are in Russian math class. And for the most part, I work from 7:30 a.m. until about noon on most weekdays and work roughly 20 hours per week. However, it is important to note that I never assign specific times to any of my tasks. Everything on my schedule is flexible with the stipulation that it must get done by the end of the week. Here's just a note. I used to assign specific time blocks to all my tasks, but I found that if I ever missed a particular time block, then I'd be much more inclined to skip the task altogether. So don't assign time blocks to these tasks. Next tip, create task associations. Now, another trick I use to make forward progress with my goals is to associate a task with something else. A task association is a group of tasks that are lumped together in an if-then fashion. For example, here's a task association that I use to make sure that I do pull-ups every day. Whenever I have to go to the bathroom, I do 5 pull-ups. And my pull-up bar is conveniently placed right outside of my bathroom, so I quickly pump them out after every bathroom break. Now, prior to implementing this task association, I could never get myself to do pull-ups, but now it's easy and I don't even think about it. Now with my businesses, I make an effort to complete one business task every time I use my computer. For example, whenever I use Facebook, I go down my business task list and just cross something off. Now the task could be as simple as just emailing someone back, but something always gets done. All right, these next 2 tips are a little bit more drastic, but they work. The next one is to put money on the line. Another way to rewire your brain to force a change is to put your money where your mouth is. Now, if there's a goal that I absolutely want to achieve, I will give $1,000 to a friend and tell him or her not to return my money until I've accomplished my objective. Now, this is a scary and painful way to force yourself to take action, but it works. Everyone needs a kick in the butt, and sometimes the best motivation is the fear of loss. Now, occasionally, my business partner and I will make a bet that we have to do something embarrassing if we don't meet our goals. Now, whatever you do, choose something that genuinely inflicts pain or humiliation. Now, this last tip is something that I don't necessarily recommend, but for some of you, this is the only thing that's going to work, and that's to put yourself in a drastic situation. Now, this final method of forcing a change is to purposely put yourself in what I call a sink or swim situation. So if you want to start a business, then quit your job cold turkey. And through the sheer desperation of needing money, your brain will find a way to make things happen. For my wife and I, we put ourselves in a life-changing situation when we decided to start a family. When my wife became pregnant with our first child, I was forced into responsibility. All of a sudden, I wanted to make life-changing money, I wanted to buy a good home in a great school district, I wanted to spend all my time with the kids, and having a child rewired my brain to make a change. Now, I'm not telling you to go off and start a family, but you have to figure out what strategy works for you. And as my dad once famously said, you can't expect your life to get better if you continue down the exact same path. So use these 9 techniques in this video to take charge of your life. Hope you enjoyed this video. Now, if you like what you saw, there's actually a lot more where that came from if you subscribe to my channel below. And if you are interested in learning how to sell physical products online, then click over here and take my free 6-day mini course where I'll walk you through everything that you need to know to get started in e-commerce. Thanks for watching.